This cowl is a project perfect for absolute beginners to Tunisian crochet, and it is made using Tunisian crochet simple stitch, and the whole job can be completed in around 2 hours. For quick results, I recommend using a super chunky yarn, and the one I used was Paton Symphony Super Chunky. Recommending a 7mm crochet hook, but because it's Tunisian crochet I'm using a 9mm hook. As a rule of thumb, you always use a Tunisian crochet hook a couple of millimeters larger than the recommended crochet hook size. And as you can see, the colours change very quickly, resulting in a really colourful cowl. The first thing to do is to create a Tunisian crochet foundation row, and the very first task is to create a chain, and for this project I want the cowl to be around 7 inches across, so I'm going to chain 18. And with the chain of the correct length, it is time to cast on. I'm casting on the easy way, that is with one loop on the hook. Insert the hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and insert the hook into the next chain after that, yarn over, pull up a loop, and keep going along the row until the end. And as there was a chain of 18, there will be 18 loops on the hook for the Tunisian crochet foundation row. And the link to the video about how to do a Tunisian crochet foundation row is above. I'm now approaching the end of the chain, and once the last loop is brought up, it is worth checking the number of loops on the hook. Now for the return pass. Chain 1, and then mark the space between the 2 vertical bars on the left and one on the right that you can see beneath my thumb. Now do a normal Tunisian crochet return pass by yarning over, pulling through 2 loops, yarning over, pulling through 2 loops, all the way along the row to the end until there is just 1 loop left on the hook. And this is the Tunisian crochet foundation row with these vertical bars, one at the front and one at the back. The loop on the hook counts as the first stitch. Now insert the hook behind the second vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and do the same with the next stitch, inserting the hook behind the front vertical bar, yarning over and pulling up a loop, and continue this process all the way along the row until you reach the marked space at the end of the row. Insert the hook into the marked space at the end of the row, yarn over and pull up the last loop, and it is worth at this stage counting the number of loops on the hook. There should be 18. Now chain 1, mark the space at the end of the row, and then do a normal Tunisian crochet return pass, yarning over, pulling through 2 loops all the way along the row until there is 1 loop left on the hook. The next and all subsequent forward passes are exactly the same as the first forward pass, so insert the hook under the front vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, then insert the hook under the next front vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop all the way along the row until the marked space at the end of the row. And you can see the simple stitch building nicely. I'm now approaching the end of the second forward pass, so the last stitch of course is to insert the hook into the marked space, yarn over, pull up a loop, and again it's worth checking the number of loops on the hook just to make sure that no loops are being lost or gained. And now for the next return pass, chain 1 and mark the space with the 2 bars on the left, 1 on the right, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, all the way along the row until the end. And just keep going with normal Tunisian crochet simple stitch forward passes and normal return passes until the fabric builds to the length required, and in this case I want the length to be around 28 inches. So I'm just going to do the last return pass before I measure the length of the fabric, and as always I like to mark the space at the end of the row after chaining 1. So I've completed the return pass. There is 1 loop left on the hook, and now I'm just going to measure the length of the fabric. And as you can see, the length is indeed 28 inches. And now the only thing that remains is to join the 2 ends together, and that I'm going to do by slip stitching them together. But as always I'm going to add a twist, as I think the cowl looks nicer with a twist than without. And for slip stitching I'm going to change to an ordinary 7mm crochet hook. Placing the last loop of the return pass on the hook, and then insert the hook into the corresponding space at the edge of the opposite row, yarn over, pull through, leaving 1 loop on the hook. Insert the hook under the next vertical bar and then under the loop of the opposite stitch, yarn over and pull through all the loops, and then insert the hook under the next vertical bar, then under the corresponding loop on the opposite side, yarn over and pull through all the loops, and continue working along the row until the end. And the last slip stitch goes into the marked space at the end of the row and then into the corresponding stitch at the end of the row on the opposite side of the fabric. And this is the end result. The slip stitch seam looks neat to me. And finally, the yarn can be cut and the loose ends can then be secured by sewing them into the fabric. Using a wide-eyed needle, such as a darning needle. This is the completed Tunisian Crochet simple stitch cowl with a twist. It is really easy to do, perfect for Tunisian crochet beginners, and the whole project from start to finish should only take around 2 hours.